Now imagine a musician who played on the Star Wars and Indiana Jones soundtracks. Someone who scored one of Britain's greatest gangster films and co-founded a band whose Bach covers hit the UK top 5. Now imagine that same musician who also helped invent prog rock with Curved Air, jammed with Brian Eno, and then disappeared into obscurity. Today, this is the tale of Francis Monkman, the forgotten genius of progressive music. Now, he may not have been a household name, that's fair to say. But if you've ever listened to progressive rock in the 70s, or you've watched some of Britain's greatest films of the 80s, you've heard his influence. You just don't realise. Let's take a look at his story. A classically trained prodigy, a restless experimenter, and a bridge between worlds, Francis Monkman's career spanned psychedelic rock, avant-garde supergroups, chart-topping classical crossovers, and unforgettable film scores. But it was way back in 1969 that Monkman co-founded Curved Air, one of those first true progressive rock bands from the UK. The band's name came from Terry Riley's A Rainbow and Curved Air, which was a nod to Monkman's love of minimalism and experimentation. Now, he played keyboards, he played guitar, and even bass when needed in the group, and his versatility gave the band that unique edge. Their debut, Air Conditioning, made history as the first picture disc LP ever released. Okay, the quality wasn't brilliant, but it was the first one. The follow-up, the second album, pushed Curved Air into the charts, powered by the hit single Backstreet Love. Suddenly, Francis Monkman's dazzling keyboard runs were literally all over the radio, but success came with tension. Monkman loved improvisation, risk, and stretching music into unknown territories, but fellow bandmate and violinist Darrell Way, he preferred precision and control. So by the time the band released Phantasmagoria in 1972, the creative clash had become literally too much. But here's what happened. Monkman simply walked away. He left Curved Air as a rising star, but also as an uncompromising artist. He was determined to follow his own path. Now, after Curved Air, Monkman became one of progressive rock's most in-demand session players. He added organ and harpsichord to Renaissance's Prologue. He worked with Al Stewart. And in 1978, he played on Kate Bush's Lionheart, bringing his classical touch to her lush arrangements. But his boldest move came in 1976, when he joined Brian Eno and Phil Manzanera in the experimental supergroup 801. Now, the band only played a handful of shows, but they recorded a live album that captured something special. This fearless mix of progressive complexity, electronic ambience, and raw rock energy. On 801 Live, Monkman's improvisations were electric, provided he could thrive in both structure and chaos. In 1978, Monkman took on his most ambitious challenge yet. He co-founded the band Sky with classical guitar legend John Williams. Now, their idea was really simple, but it was revolutionary. Bring together virtuoso classical playing with the power of rock. Now, the gamble really paid off. Sky's debut album reached number 9 in the UK charts. Phenomenal. But in 1980, Sky 2 hit number 1. And at the centre of it all was Monkman. His dazzling arrangement of Bach's Staccato stormed into the UK top 5, no less. Suddenly, all around us, harpsichords and synthesizers were filling living rooms across Britain. He also wrote original pieces for Sky, including Where Opposites Meet and the 17-minute suite FIFO, a sprawling computer-aged epic. But just as Sky reached its peak, Monkman felt the pull of a new direction. And this time it was film music that was calling, and after 2 albums he walked away from the project and the band he'd helped to build. So in 1980 he scored The Long Good Friday, one of the defining British gangster films of its era. His soundtrack blended moody synthesizers with urgent rhythmic tension, and this perfectly matching Bob Hoskins' explosive performance in that film. Now, the success of the score really began to open up some doors for it. Behind the scenes, Monkman played us some of the biggest blockbusters of the day: The Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Superman 2, even James Bond films like Live and Let Die and The Spy Who Loved Me. Millions of cinema-goers heard his work, even if they never really knew who he was or indeed his name. But even as the soundtrack career grew, Monkman kept following his own musical instincts. In 1981, he released Dweller on the Threshold. This was an ambitious solo album that combined progressive art rock and guest spots from friends like Andy Latimer of Camel. His work continued in similar veins. He scored more movie music, and he scored the music to Channel 4's engineering announcements, as well as appearing on BBC's Tomorrow's World programme as a synth demonstrator. Later came the 21st Century Blues in 2001, and finally the Bach Family in 2021, where Monkman returned to the music that first inspired him, the organ and harpsichord. Now, in his later years, he became a champion of historic instrument restoration, performing Bach in historically significant venues and keeping the sound of centuries-old organs alive. It was this full circle moment from prodigy to prog rock pioneer to custodian of classical tradition. Francis Monkman passed away in May 2023 at the age of 73. He was never a rock and roll star in the traditional sense, but he embodied the spirit of progressive rock music, refusing to be boxed in, constantly searching for new sounds and daring to cross boundaries between genres. From Curved Air to Sky, from the Long Good Friday to Bach himself, Monkman's music proves that the adventurous spirit of progressive rock can live literally anywhere. He may have been forgotten by the mainstream, but to those who listen closely, Francis Monkman remains a true pioneer and a worthy subject for discussion. Let me be clear, I am by no means an expert on the man and would love to hear more from you guys out there about his life, his music, or any aspect of his career. Now, I have another video here that I need you to watch right now. It's one that's been selected by YouTube, and I'll see you over there.